So you have historians that will reference Joe Zerilli, who was the Italian mob boss of Detroit, as a former Purple Gang member, or Pete Licavoli, who was another founding father of the Detroit Mafia. He'll be referenced as a former Purple Gang member. They were never in the Purple Gang. They were Italian. Joe Zerilli was a member of a group called the East Side Gang, and before that, he was in a group known as the he was in the East Side group, and before that, he was in the Gianola Gang, and Pete Licavoli was the founder of the River Gang. None of them were Purple Gangers. They worked with the Purple Gang hand in hand. They were allied with the Purple Gang, but they were not Purple Gang. So it kind of gets, the definition gets looser when you have, accomplished East Coast or West Coast crime writers that are referencing anyone that was involved in Detroit mob affairs in the early part of the 20th century. Just gets all grouped into the Purple Gang.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I'm actually from Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah, right.
And if you know Toledo, Ohio, what's it?
Licavoli. Pete Licavoli, who I just referenced. Yeah.
Oh, yep.
His brother. So Pete Licavoli's brother Yanni came and took over Toledo.
Yeah. Yep. And they claim to have, they claim to be part of the Purple Gang and ran in Toledo.
Well, see that kind of plays into what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So the Licavolis, because of some of this, I don't want to call some of my contemporaries sloppy, because some of them are just reporting what some of their research is coming up with, and some of that research is just based on false or inaccurate sources. But it's been reported through the years as, again, anything related to Detroit mob activity in the 20s or 30s is automatically Purple Gang. So, the New York Times is referring to Pete Licavoli in some of their coverage of him as former Purple Ganger.
Okay.
Well, if you do your proper research beyond just looking a couple things up or reading some press clippings, you realize that the Licavolis were a whole separate entity known as the River Gang, who again worked in connection with the Purple Gang, and they weren't rivals or enemies, but they were not members of the Purple Gang. So the Licavolis were, an entity in their own right in Detroit mob, in the Detroit mob kingdom. And Pete Licavoli, Horseface Pete, was one of the founding fathers. So the founding fathers of the Detroit mob would be Pete Licavoli, Joe Zerilli, Black Bill Tocco, Machine Gun Pete Corrado would probably be the guys, or Angelo Maley. Those five guys were really the guys that built the crime family from the ground up. But around the time that they took over in the start of the 1930s, Pete sent his brother Thomas, who they all called Yanni, out to Cleveland. Or sorry, let me say that over again. So around the time that the modern day Detroit Mafia family was created in the early 1930s by the five founding fathers, Joe Zerilli, Black Bill Tocco, Machine Gun Pete Corrado, Pete Licavoli, and Angelo Maley. Licavoli sent his younger brother Thomas, who people called Yanni, to Toledo to open up their own kind of satellite office of the Detroit Mafia. And they got there, and they kind of took the city by storm. A lot of bodies dropped. One ended up getting Yanni convicted of a gangland murder in Toledo, and he ended up doing a good 30 plus years in prison. But the stamp that the Licavolis put down in Cleveland, the stamp that the Licavoli clan put down in the Toledo area transcended that early couple years when Yanni went out there, and was actually a very, very integral and profitable operation within the Detroit crime family. One of their more lucrative assets, if you will, would be that Toledo satellite, which was given to Billy Giacalone in the early '60s to run, and Billy ran it, in the last kind of vestige of the Toledo mob glory era,
Okay.
which lasted, into the '80s, but not much after that.